Who doesn't love a great sporting comeback? When a team is down and out, they're written off, but they come back to succeed. Take the Socceroos, for example. Their first ever World Cup victory achieved with 3 goals in the last 10 minutes. There's something special about a performance like that, no matter who it is. We love it. And of course the media loves it as well. I'm sure we've all read those articles about unlikely victories, teams who fight back. Perhaps they'll claim that it's the greatest comeback of all time. The Socceroos were actually described by one journalist as having come back from the dead against Japan. These make for good headlines, don't they? Good for selling a newspaper. But they are exaggerated media hype. See, if we think about it, they aren't really true. They don't mean what they actually say. They can't all be the greatest comebacks. And when they say the Socceroos came back from the dead, well, who was dead? But they use these headlines to grab our attention. I wonder if you think that's what it was like when the Bible was written. When this guy Jesus is said to have come back from the dead. What do you make of that? Is the story of Jesus really true? Or could it just be a media beat-up? Even worse, a lie. Well, it's a big question with big implications. So let's look together at some things about Jesus from a couple of sentences in the Bible. We get a great description here in just a few words. Here it is, 1 Corinthians chapter 15, verse 3 to 4. I passed on to you as of first importance, that Christ died for our sins according to the Scriptures, that he was buried, that he was raised on the 3rd day according to the Scriptures, and that he appeared to Peter and then to the 12. After that, he appeared to more than 500, most of whom are still living. And then it goes on. But there it is, you see. A real man, Paul, was writing this in a letter to remind people of the truth about Jesus. This was important stuff. The first fact for us to consider, though, is this, that Jesus died. In fact, he didn't just die. Jesus was murdered, put to death by Roman soldiers. And these guys did not make mistakes. Questioning whether Jesus really died brings into question the job of these soldiers, whose life it was to kill people. This is like asking whether Don Bradman was any good at cricket. Can Tiger Woods play golf? Could the Romans kill people? The answer to all these is exactly the same. These guys were experts at what they did. Jesus hadn't just passed out or anything. The Romans made sure of that. I think the next point reinforces this. That is, that he was buried. You don't just bury anyone, do you? You've got to be a particular type of person to achieve that feat. You've got to be dead. See, Jesus was wrapped up, laid in a tomb, and left to fade away. This was it. The end of Jesus, it seemed. But there was a twist in the tale, greater than any sporting comeback. It says here next, he was raised on the 3rd day. What an outrageous claim. So you've just read that Jesus was definitely dead. Now we're saying he's alive? Have you ever thought how bizarre that claim is? So maybe this is the media hype we were talking about before. Did Jesus really rise from the dead? Well, we don't have to look too far for evidence. The writer has given it to us right here. So he writes to his friends and he says, the best way to find out if it was true, if you really want to know, well then ask someone. Talk to someone who saw it themselves. They'll soon tell you. See, it says next, he appeared to many. This is not just a story made up by Jesus' crazy friends. There were stacks of people who saw it. All will tell the same story. Jesus, the man who was killed, dead and buried, really did rise again. Although we can't do it now, those who were first reading this could go and still ask them. They'd speak up pretty quickly if it was false. But Paul knew that it was true, and he's passing it on so that people like us can know for sure. Jesus really did rise from the dead. What a remarkable thing. I am absolutely convinced that this is true. I wonder about you. Do you get excited by the idea, like hearing about a great sporting comeback? Surely this has got to be the greatest comeback in history. Well, either that or it's the greatest hoax of all. It's not just a nice story. We must have some kind of reaction. You need to decide what it means for you. It makes a world of difference. See, in what we've looked at so far, there's one question that remains unanswered. Why? Why did Jesus go through with it? If he was God, couldn't he have avoided such a brutal death? Was he just a glutton for punishment? Well, no. The Bible tells us that if there was any other way, Jesus would have gone for it. But these words tell us that Jesus' death, well, it was for us, for you and for me. It says here that Jesus died for our sins. Our sin, S-I-N, selfish, independent nature. It's an attitude towards God which we all show in different ways, snubbing him. And see, the fair result for such an attitude is our death. But Jesus, who didn't sin, he died for us. That's what it says here. He's willing to take the punishment that we deserved. Now see, if Jesus didn't rise, then Christianity is all a farce. Because there's no reason to have our confidence in our sins being forgiven. No confidence in our future. But if he did rise again, well, it shows that he's had victory. Not victory in a sporting contest, but victory over death, the consequence of sin. Remember, Jesus was definitely dead, and now is alive again, never to die again. He defeated death, and he offers to share the spoils of his victory with us. We don't have to do anything. In fact, we can't do anything. Jesus has done it all. We just need to put our trust in him, to express our thanks and belief in what he's done on our behalf. And then we too can have confidence of having life after death. And we can experience life as it was meant to be now. So maybe the next time you hear someone talking about a great comeback, or you see one on TV, remember the greatest one of them all. And trust in Jesus to forgive you. Trust him with your life now and in your death. And be excited about what Jesus did a few thousand years ago, when there really was a comeback from the dead.